Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Welcome back in. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Make sure to rate 5 stars out there on the podcast world. You can find the Unbearable Sports Podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports, and you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. Mr. PayPal, we've done it. This is the final week of an abysmal season for our Chicago Bears. And also, we are tanking. We are in full-blown tank mode. Nathan Peterman is starting. But first off, before we get into that, how are you, my friend?
When I heard that, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, when I heard that news, I was at first, it was dang, Justin Fields can't break the record. He's what, 68 yards away or something. So that was kind of a bummer because he didn't even play, we didn't have this running offense incorporated with him till week 5 or something.
Yeah.
So I feel like he could easily break the record again, but still kind of disappointing, but awesome that Nathan Peterman, I mean, that's full tank. That's full tank, and we're going to lose. So that's awesome.
Agreed. It's full tank mode for the Bears. And that's where, too, we were making fun of the Bears for signing Nathan Peterman. Why would they do this? And they're like, hey, you know what? If we're going to tank, we're going to do this right. So, So also, Reload said it in the comments, prayers up for DeMar Hamlin. It's great to see that he's doing well. It's great to see that things are doing great. If you haven't already, donate to his charity. I know that I donated out there, and it's last time I checked, it was past $6 million. It was insane. So yeah, it's awesome. Also, thanks, Reload. Yep. Three kids. I got 3 kids out there. It's absolutely crazy, but appreciate it. And Renewable says out there, difference between tanking and sucking.
It's a fair question. At this point, we were at the point in the season where, I think of midway where it was oh my gosh, this offense is scoring 29 points per game, where, we're basically losing by 1 score in the fourth quarter. And it usually ends up with Justin Fields throwing a pick or whatever, or fumbling it or something. But now, after last week's game, it was there was no good takeaways of that game last week. It was basically that we need help. That was kind of it. So hopefully we kind of look like a tanking team rather than a sucky team. I agree with that.
Yeah, and that's where, too, I think last week's game, obviously brutal. I think that's what happens when Justin Fields isn't playing well, right? Justin Fields has a bad game, his first bad game, truly bad game in a while. Yeah. And we're oh man, we can't even watch this team because it shows what's capable. But that's where we got the lame duck, Nathan Peterman, throwing the passes. The person that when we were at training camp, my wife literally said, I think I can throw a better ball than him. He's going to be starting for us. And so this is going to be great. I'm excited to see this, but who knows? The way that the Vikings are playing, the Vikings are coming into Chicago, the way they've been playing, the way that they got whooped up on by Green Bay, this could be a closer game than most people predict, including ourselves. So we're going to be breaking that down. Also, who to watch for, right? This is the last game. We want to enjoy it. We want to have fun. Let's see who we should be watching out there. But also, when we go through kind of the agenda, we're breaking down the offense, breaking down the defense, but then also who has the edge, over-unders, game predictions, and last but not least, the game simulations. We're going to see where we go. But PayPal, besides all the Justin Fields news, there's more news for us to cover. And it's our first re-signing of the season or of the year. Equinemius St. Brown gets a 1-year extension through 2023. Are you surprised? Are you shocked? Are you disappointed? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, it's kind of shocking, at this point of the season that he got it. Like, he didn't even think about really testing, the free agency and stuff. So I think that's a good sign. He's like, okay, I want to be here. We heard him in his interview. He like wants to be here for at least one more year because he can see that they're building something here. And he hasn't bought a house here yet, so he's not completely settling down in Chicago, but he's still renting. So I'm not surprised. I mean, he fits well in this offense. Lou Getzi loves him. Like he's obviously not the most talented player, but he blocks well. He's seems to always be in the right place, and he just gets the job done. And I think we could all agree. I don't think we re-signed him as a number 2, number 1 receiver, but we signed him as like a reliable backup. At least
Yeah,
that's what we hope for.
I think so. It's like you had the tryouts for the 1-year guys, and he definitely was the best, right? I
Yeah.
think that Pettis showed more from a special teams perspective just because of the return ability, but you're hoping Bayless can do that, right? I think
Mhm.
overall EQ was the most, I mean, it's hard to say most reliable because I think he had less than the 50% completion, but he could block, he could do it all, and I think he's a good fit. That's why they brought him
Yeah.
back. But it's not even marrying him to next season. I didn't check out the guarantees, but it's like a $1.25 million deal. It's
Yeah.
not a lot by any means, but also we placed a lot of people on injured reserve, and ultimately DeMarquise Gates, Terrell Lewis, and Jalen Holmes are then activated to the active roster. Little bit about them. So Jalen Holmes, I don't know too much, but Terrell Lewis was a 3rd-round pick for the LA Rams from the Alabama Crimson Tide. Some people, when he was coming out, actually had him as a 1st-round grade or even like a 2nd-round prospect. I
Mm.
didn't see it. I actually was very low on him, but I always like to see someone that other people had really high come to the Bears. This is clearly the Bears want to see what he has because he was highly touted, and overall PFF has him charted as 6 sacks overall throughout his 3-year career. So a very young player, only
Mm.
24 years old, and former 3rd-round pick. We saw them do this with Oljamudie. Same thing, where they got someone that was a higher drafted, top 3 rounds, and just want to see what they're capable of. So I like the move, but I really want to see DeMarquise Gates, which we'll go through a little bit
Mm.
later. And for those that like long snappers, Cameron Kennedy was signed long snapper to the practice squad. Maybe because it looked like scales got a little nicked up, but it's always good to have a backup somewhere out there on the roster. And it's last week, so why not? Right? Well, let's go into this offense, shall we? We also have some questions out there. I'll address them right now, actually, before we get into it. Reload has Brad. Imagine we pair Tony Pollard with Justin. Thoughts next season? PayPal. My thought is, my only reason is, or I'm a little against it, see him commanding some good money because of just him being a running back and him having a pretty good season. So that's where I get iffy. I know we need to spend money because you have to hit the mark, but I just get iffy whenever we're going to spend it on a running back. And I've been doing a lot of my draft analysis so far. There's a lot of good talent we can get in the 3rd round, that like a lot of AJ Dillon comps in that 3rd round. That's where I really like that. That's where I really like drafting someone rather than a signing of a Tony Pollard.
I
Yeah. PayPal, your thought?
I completely agree. I mean, also, I just think of the perspective of, you know, Khalil Herbert is I almost think him kind of like that Tony Pollard. Like he's a quick, speedy guy. And I don't think you really think of Tony Pollard as that blocking back. Like he's not going to be on 3rd downs. So I think I think like Dave Montgomery as good, not as amazing as he's been, but I think he's a good pairing. Like you kind of want that thunder and lightning. Dallas has that too. Like Zeke is obviously not the better running back, but you kind of need that person to just ground and pound and then kind of the explosive guy in the back.
Yeah, and we need money for Deron Payne, as J Rock
Yes.
said. We got to get Deron Payne. We need, and we're gonna have a lot of money, definitely. But yeah, just making sure. Like, I'm not a big fan of spending money on running backs. That's my thing, and I could see. I'll leave it to other teams to sign that. But let's go over to this offense though, because Renewable's saying Mr. Peterman time, right? Peterman is coming out. Who's the backup? Mr. Tim Boyle is the backup, who looks kind of like he could be Matt Eberflus's son. Like, Google him. I looked at him. I'm like, I swear to God, that's like Eberflus's son. But Tim Boyle is the backup, who used to be the backup quarterback for
For the Packers.
For the Packers. Yeah. So let's go over to this offensive side of the ball. Bears offense versus this defense for the Minnesota Vikings. Bears offense, not highly rated. No surprise there, especially with Peterman under center. DVOA has them ranked as the 27th overall offense, 30th pass, and 13th run. But if we flip over to the other side, DVOA does not like the Vikings. 25th defense overall, 26th against the pass, 16th against the run. But also, this passing defense lets up a lot of yards. I kind of wish, this is where part of me wishes that Justin Fields was out here so we could see this, because they let up 273 passing yards a game, which is about almost 20 yards more than the Detroit Lions. So a very poor defense out here. And, you know, Peterman might be able to do something. What are you thinking about Peterman? What do you think he actually does out there?
Yeah. And with your point, I mean, first real quick, I mean, Justin Fields, he did face the Lions, which also has a really bad defense, and sadly, he didn't do too much. So I'm just glad he's not getting absolutely punished behind the line, because our offensive line needs some work.
And here, I'm going to cut you off too, because real quick, I thought about this. I'm so disappointed they didn't throw it 30 times with Justin Fields.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, why not just have a game plan and like tell everybody, we're just going to sling it, right? What do you have to lose? Like, just have at least one game in the season where you're like, we are just going to cut it loose with Fields. We are going to be passing it down their throats. Let's do it, right? And you can also say maybe for the Detroit game, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of poor play on the tackles. So it might have been that, but still, like, you wanted to see that 30, 40 passing attempts out of our boy Justin Fields.
And we want to see 10 of those receptions to Chase Claypool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or N'Keal Harry or anyone, you know. It's like they just throw it. I mean, I'm fine with them throwing it to Komet, but I mean, I don't get very excited when I see a catch to EQ, to be honest. I'm just like, I know he's gonna be on the team.
Yeah.
Throw it to someone else that like could actually prove themselves, or even Pettis. It's like, throw it to someone else. Like, but yeah, I honestly, I mean, I'm surprised Peterman has a 67 PFF grade. I'm pretty sure that's better than Fields. So I hope that's not saying they like him better than Fields. I don't know. That's where the PFF grades, I'm like,
check it out.
You always got to take it for granted.
He did only have like one pass. So there was that, which is
true.
His best pass. That's probably the reason why. Small sample size.
Yeah, small sample size. But, you know, Peterman, I mean, he's known for, you know, having it was like that 6 interception game. I couldn't see him having a game like that. Will he have a few picks here and there? I would not be surprised if he had one. But I think this is the game that we just have that very plain, boring offense, sadly, where hand it off to Montgomery, hand it off to Khalil Herbert, see what we can do with the run game, and kind of have those soft little checkdowns. And yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but when Peterman was out here last time, or was it Tim Boyle, when we finally saw those deep balls to Claypool?
That was Simeon. So yeah.
That was Simeon, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if Peterman really has that deep ball in him, but, you know,
from training camp, no, he does not.
He does not.
That's when, like, the smaller stuff, you're like, okay, I think it's just his arm. Like, he doesn't have a strong arm out there. And I think that's where we were poking fun of him. Like, oh, it just looks like a lame duck out there every time he throws. And that's why people pick it off. Like, it's the Johnny Manziel thing. Johnny Manziel, every time you throw it, you're like, where's the gusto? Where's the velocity behind
Yeah.
this ball as it's coming out? So yeah, we'll see what he does. But you bring up the running game. I got to bring this up too. Just something to watch out for. Just watch David Montgomery because this might be his last game as a Chicago Bear. I think if I were to predict it, I could see him coming back. Like I feel like he's going to come
Yeah.
back because I feel like he's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to look at free agency. I'm going to see what people have to offer. But it's such a deep free agent class. I could see him coming back. I would give him. It sounds so low, but like 5 million and be like, do you want to come here? And a
Mhm.
year or two, you got to go low because, like I said, there are running backs in this draft that you can get that can do something, and you can get other people that can be that third down person because Khalil Herbert hasn't shown to be a third down running back, right? The pass
Mhm.
catching. So there's things that you can do to offset that a little bit, but let's just appreciate this game with them because yeah, hopefully they're going to be running it a lot because this defense, even though that they have Hicks and Kendricks in the middle, they still give up a lot of rushing yards. Against the Packers, they gave up 4.9 rushing yards a carry, and Aaron Jones 111 yards. So to me, I think that's a good game plan, just trying to run the football because you want to try and win, right? So
Mhm.
you don't want to put the ball in Peterman's hands.
Yeah, you want to look like you're giving effort to win. You also want to make the game quick and easy for us just to be like, all right, we secured the second round pick. So yeah, just run the ball, make it quick, make it easy, but don't make an effort to win. Make it look like you're trying. Because I mean, Brad, I maybe it's just a little conspiracy theory, but I mean, we see Lou Getsy. It's like this offense is number one in first drive conversions, like scoring points. Like they are number one in the NFL, which is
Really?
crazy. Yes. And we like you can see how this offense can work, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm kind of like, is Lou Getsy just like saving his plays like in the second half? Is he just kind of giving up? Is he full tank mode as well? Because I mean, you see spurts of this offense doing well, and then it will just completely die off. And I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see that this game.
I'm curious if it's the Matt Nagy thing as well. Like it's a scripted play, right? He's got his scripted plays out there. I think there's also something to be said about when you're playing against Justin Fields and you see the speed, it probably takes a drive to kind of adjust to it, right?
Yeah.
Like we've all played sports, you go against someone or like you play a pickup game. After the first couple times, you're like, okay, now I get this guy. Now I understand how he plays. Maybe it's something like that. Usually it that correlates to scripted plays. So hopefully he does get better with that. But it's going to be interesting. And one spot that I want to kind of call attention to because Michael Schofield on IR, Tevin Jenkins, IR. This right guard spot is wide open. Dieter Iselin filled in last time, didn't do so well, let up multiple pressures, multiple sacks. Who do you want at this right guard spot? Larry Borum, Leatherwood, Dieter Iselin, or Jatiri Carter?
Man, that's tough. I mean, I got it. I'm always kind of like Leatherwood. Like we kind of tried him out at tackle. Can we put him back at guard? Like kind of have that like Tevin Jenkins, like where you have this very athletic, big, offensive lineman, but he just doesn't have that quickness to be able to be or the lateral movement to be that tackle spot. So maybe we put Leatherwood at guard. Like, I mean, he doesn't really have problems in the run game because he is so big. Um, so I'm fine with him being. I mean, if we're gonna run a lot, put him at guard, and it's fun to just see a young guy out there and kind of develop.
Yeah, I agree with you there because the one person I don't want to see is Dieter Iselin. I
Yeah.
it because also you think about this team, Dieter's probably not going to make the team because
Mhm.
he's a center, and that's the reason why he's on this roster. That's the reason why he's active is because we don't have a backup center yes, you could say Whitehair, but he's not taking snaps there. They want Dieter as the actual backup. So that's the reason why he's activated. That's the reason why he plays. But it was interesting to see him at that right guard spot. And yeah, like he's not going to get playing time. Lucas Patrick's going to be back. Mustafa, he's a free agent, but he's a restricted free agent. He's probably going to be back. And you probably need to upgrade center. That's my take on it. I would want to upgrade over Lucas Patrick. And we're getting Doug Kramer back, the rookie. So to me, yeah, Ja'Tyre Carter, I really want to see out there. Borum's probably the best, but you've already seen what he's capable of, right? You want to see what everybody else has to offer. I think Leatherwood, I would only play him if I was thinking about cutting him. It sounds weird, but because if you cut him, I think the number is he's a $2 million cap hit next year. But if you cut him because his salary grows, all his entire contract's guaranteed. So you're paying him $4.6 million if you end up cutting him next season. Yeah. So that's the thing. You can either just take the L and suck it up, or you have to have him play and for the next 2 years, right? So I think to me, why not play Leatherwood? Why not play Carter? See what you have with these players, because I think it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. But let's go to the wide receivers. So Kmet's going to be playing wide receivers. We know EQ just secured the bag, aka like a veteran minimum. But EQ got paid. He's on a team. He's happy. Who do you think has the most to prove out of this wide receiver group? And anybody in the chat, let us know too. Out of this wide receiver group, who has the most to prove in this last game of the week?
Man, I mean,
season. Sorry.
I think literally every receiver besides Pettis and EQ. I think those are the two guys we kind of have seen. I mean, yeah, EQ already signed. Pettis, it's like, I don't know where Pettis really stands. It's like if Velas has been looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost on my list of like, he's almost done proving for me. I mean, he obviously there's more things we need to see from Velas. Just more incorporated in this offense and in the punt returning game, but we have seen him grow, which is amazing to see. So, but I mean, I think of Pringle, I think of N'Keal Harry, I think of Claypool. It's like those guys all have so much to prove because they have done nothing. I mean, what Claypool had one target last week, and every week we're just like, where's Claypool? Where's Claypool? Where's Harry? Where's Pringle? Pringle had 4 targets last week, and he had no catches. So,
yeah.
I mean, all those guys have to prove that they're worth something upcoming in this free agency. I mean, besides Claypool. But yeah, it's besides like those two guys, I mean, basically the whole entire wide receiver team.
Yeah. And this is where it's so hard. And because we got J-Rock saying Velas, Bears Bones is saying Pringle, Mr. Mayhem saying N'Keal Harry. Like this is where it's so difficult, because Pettis, we know what he is, right? And Velas is coming up, right? He's showing what he's capable of. And that's where I'm excited to see Velas. But yeah, I look at a Pringle, and the thing, he's always smiling, which I get and I love. But there's something to be said. They say that you can tell a fake smile when they smile with their mouth, but their eyes don't do anything. Like their eyebrows don't react. And he's just sitting there like, yeah. Like Pringle's got to do something. I side with the Pringle because he needs to do something. But I feel like at this point, N'Keal Harry, Byron Pringle, I don't think they're going to be back. And that's why I think ultimately I'm going to be going with Chase Claypool, because you have this veteran quarterback, even though that he's super young and it's Peterman. See what you can do, because when Simeon was out there, Claypool was able to kind of cook a little bit more. He was giving him opportunities. He's going to be throwing the ball up. We all know Peterman does that. Claypool's got to come down with it. Claypool's got to show what he's capable of, because we've said this before. If he doesn't perform well, they might be saying we need 2 receivers next year. We need to solidify this wide receiver position a lot more. So it's just going to be something that we got to be looking at. And also, I hope he does well so that we go in with blind optimism, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if he sucks, we're going to be like, we traded the second pick in the second round for this guy?
Yeah.
Like, you kidding me? So I think that's where he needs to ball out. He needs to do well. But PayPal, anything else before we get into our matchups and X factors?
Yeah, we'd talk all off season about Claypool of like he's got to prove it this this season, whatever. I can already see like the headlines and just every podcast talking about that.
Totally.
But Brett, if you watch, I'm always big into just watching the interviews and everything. But he has one of my favorite interviews, like almost all of them. He just shows how competitive he is and like his work ethic. But that's where I'm always confused of like, why isn't that translated like in his targets or anything? Like, is it off with him in Fields or what is it? But who knows?
That's where like I tweeted when he got traded. The thing that concerned me was that he didn't create a lot of separation. And that's the thing with Fields. Fields doesn't throw it to people that are covered. And like we've said before, it's a weird thing to say, throw it to people when they're covered, because it's more of NFL open versus college open. And that's something that Fields is getting better on, but he still struggles with. And I think that's where Chase, it's good to see. Hopefully Peterman starts throwing it to him, because we saw what happened with the dump offs. Now Justin Fields throws more dump offs because he saw Simeon do it, right? And it's different too when you see somebody literally do your job differently, because then you go, oh, I guess I could do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, otherwise you just think I'm just going to play the way that I do. And now with this, he sees in a live game, Simeon was able to throw dump offs and it worked. So that's where I'm hoping that they can perform well. So we'll see. Well, let's go to our monster matchups. Bears offense versus the opposing defense. And you know what? Just for this week, we're going to include quarterback into this, because we always say that we don't include quarterback because Fields is too easy of a matchup. What is your monster matchup, Mr. PayPal?
Oh man, I honestly go with Riley Reef and who is it? Yeah, Daniil Hunter. I mean, Riley Reef, I thought we were pretty solid with him when he was kind of becoming that starter over Borum. And then last week, it just showed he just looked absolutely awful. So I think Daniil Hunter with Peterman, with a quarterback that is not mobile, just keep him safe. Keep Peterman safe. I don't want him to get embarrassed too much out there. So I think Daniil Hunter's a scary guy. I mean, it seems like every time we face him, he does something. So yeah, protect the quarterback and that'll help a lot.
All right. In my matchup, I had one and I really wanted to go with it, but then I saw our boy, one of our favorite players of last year that I got to meet this year and got his autograph. I was so happy I got to meet him. The Duke Shelley is on the Vikings and he's playing well. It's awesome to see. I want to see the Duke Shelley versus Chase Claypool. That's going to be my matchup. Take advantage of the smaller corner. There's going to be some lame ducks out there. There are going to be some lobs out there. I want to see Chase Claypool moss some people out there. So to me, Chase Claypool, I just want Chase Claypool to go against Duke, because Duke's short and Chase Claypool is big. Take that advantage. It's a size advantage. Try and do something with that. It'll be interesting to see where Patrick Peterson ends up playing, having a good season this year compared to last year. But still, I just want to see that. That's what I want to see. I think he's going to – I was thinking about putting Duke Shelley as my X factor, just because he's going to be playing with just guns a-blazing, because he's been good. And he lets everybody know when he's playing.
Yeah, knowing his personality, I could see
yeah.
him. Everyone talks about, oh, like, here's a, rivalry game against, your past teams. But I think with him, he's one of those guys that really takes it personal.
Yeah, totally. Especially it's like you got rid of me for a bunch of these undrafted rookies
Oh my
and
gosh,
all these
yeah.
unproven people. I'm Duke Shelley. I'm the Duke. Like what? So I'm excited to see what he ends up doing. But let's go over to X Factors. Hey pal, who's your X Factor?
Brad, man, there's so many I I still Cole Kmet's still always I feel like he's my X factor every week. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's just one of those guys where we see him really grow with the team now. I mean, having the confidence to be giving him handoffs, like being quarterback basically and handing it off to Justin Fields like last week just shows how committed they are to him and how much they've
Yeah.
been liking him. I mean, he blocks super well and just hopefully he can be that target for Peterman because obviously these receivers have not been the popular targets of this offense. I mean, what they had 3 receptions last week for the receivers, and Cole Kmet, I believe, had like 2 or 3. So I could see him taking a lot of the share again.
Yeah, and he looks good, and especially in the short game. I really like that X
Hmm.
Factor. I shouldn't have said Duke Shelley for it. So I'm going to say an X Factor and then I'm going to say a matchup because I want to talk about this. And I was going to for my matchup, but then I saw the Duke and I forgot about him. My X Factor is David Montgomery because we need this ground game to get going. We saw Khalil Herbert kind of get back on his horse and play well, but then David Montgomery needs to be the every down back, needs to be the safety valve, needs to be able to block, needs to be able to play for this contract and show his value. That's why to me, he is the number one X factor because you don't want Peterman to be passing. And the Bears, you want to win this game. Like as a team, you want to win. You don't care about draft position. So David Montgomery, secure your bag, show what you're worth, and go out there and ball out. So that's why he's my X factor because he needs a big game, and he always seems to play his best against the Minnesota Vikings as
Mm.
well. But my matchup that I was going to say until I saw Duke, I really am looking at Braxton Jones this week because I have a feeling why he might have broken down because first off, James Houston just was pure bull rushing. That's his biggest weakness. But something too that I've heard people talk about that played in the NFL. It's the rookie wall. In the second half of the season, towards the end, he hasn't played this many games. Your body's
True.
broken, your body's tired, you're exhausted. He's not used to playing 17 games. So to me, I think that right now he's exhausted, he's gassed, and I think that's where he needs it's going to be very difficult. He has one more week and he's going against Daniil Hunter, who's fast and tries to beat you with that bull rush. It's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be very telling, very interesting to see. So that's who I wanted to throw in there, PayPal.
Yeah,
But
he that's like his basically the only game I think we'd really complain about Braxton Jones was last week.
yeah, and so yeah, I had to throw that in. I had to throw in a little bit extra. But do you know who else throws in a little bit extra? That's betus.com with promo code unbearable. Use the worldwide leader in sports betting. They've been in business for their 27th year. Use promo code unbearable at betus.com for 125% back on your first deposit. Make sure to use it. Make sure to use our code. You can also use the links down in the description as well. betus.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. betus.com. PayPal, maybe I'll actually read what they actually send me one of these days, but they're like bring that back again. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll do it for the final one. The
Yeah.
final regular season show before the off season. So we'll see. I'll keep you on your toes for sure.
Bet.
So let's flip over to this defense. And actually, before we get over to this defense, J-Rock, very good comment. Bears should steal defensive tackle Dalvin
Oh, I
Tomlinson from the
love that.
Vikings.
Yes.
Everybody look for Dalvin Tomlinson from the Vikings, defensive tackle. Watch him, because if you watch the defensive free agent show that PayPal and I did during the season, he was one of our 5 that we were talking about. Very good. Normally more that 5 tech, that bigger guy, but right now they're playing him at the 3 technique. Even though he's big, he's performing very well at that 3 tech. But yeah, you get him, get Deron Payne. Whoo! Let's go. So I'm excited. I'm already excited for the offseason. Already pumped up about some free agent talk. But let's go over to this defensive side of the ball. This Bears defense coming in at the 32nd ranked, according to Football Outsiders DVOA. Not a good defense, especially when you don't have the great Jack Sanborn. But you flip over to the other side. This is what I saw was so interesting. You have the Vikings, which are 12-4, and they are not ranked very well on the offense and defensive side of the ball. According to Football Outsiders, they have them ranked as the 20th offense in the league, 17th pass, 28th run. And when you look at the stats too, they really aren't that efficient. I look at this, they are the 27th run offense at only 95 yards a game. They only get 4.2 rushing yards when they run it, which is the 8th worst. So even though they have Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, they are not a very efficient team. But then when they pass it, they are the 5th highest in yards for passing yards. But as you can see, Football Outsiders, they're saying, nuh-uh, they're actually 17th because they just aren't that efficient. So even though Kirk Cousins supposedly is having this great year, they still aren't that efficient. And of course, they have Justin Jefferson. So this team is pretty good, but maybe not as good as some people expect. But PayPal, when you see this offense, who are you most afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson is an obvious one. We don't have Jalen Johnson this time to actually match up against him. I mean, when Jalen Johnson went up against him, I mean, he did as best of a job as he could. Still limited. I think Justin Jefferson still got like above 100 yards, but didn't, make him have an absolute freak of a show, But I mean, this whole entire offense. I mean, Osborne is a great slot receiver. Thielen is still pretty good even in his old age. TJ Hawkinson, they got weapons. They got weapons at receiver. And I mean, I remember watching the Colts game, and it's like when they are just giving it to every single one of the receivers, their offense looks scary. But I think Kirk Cousins has this kind of tunnel vision where he'll only focus on Justin Jefferson and not really focus on giving to any of the other of his receivers. So hopefully we can get him scared and just break him down.
I like it. And two, they're weak in the middle. And that's something that I'm looking for too, because Cousins, when under pressure, historically has not done that great. So I'm looking at Ingram. I'm looking at Mance in the middle. They're weak in the middle. And there's one person that's been coming up big the past couple games, and that's been Justin Jones. Still not up to Tomlinson's level, but this is a big game for him because you need to show that you can be a starter. I still would replace him even if he has a good game and have him more of a backup. But still, this is a big game for him, and he has a good matchup, especially since he does line up as that 3 technique, should be looking straight at Ingram, the rookie who has had a bad season this year. But also big game for Travis Gibson, obviously, so that he can potentially play. So he is fighting for one of those roster spots and fighting to see if he can be a backup next year. But PayPal, I'm looking at these linebackers because there's a thing that if I was the defensive coordinator, this is what I would do. And I wanted to run this by you, kind of get your tier system on what to happen. So because I don't want to see Morrow, Thomas, and Adams out there,
Yeah.
right? Because these guys, you feel like Morrow's not going to be back. Thomas is not going to be back because he's 32. He could retire. And Adams, you hope he's not back, right?
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would put DeMarquise Gates as starting weak side linebacker because Sanborn is your middle linebacker to see just what can he do. So I feel that's good, right? Because he's
that's
an
reasonable.
undrafted rookie free agent. See what he can do. Renewable saying Gates as well. Like put Gates out there, see what he can do, especially since he is 26. Even though that he's a rookie, he has grinded like crazy. That's what I want to see. Renewable's already taken my guy, Weatherford. That's who I want to see at the Sam linebacker position. I want to see him at the Sam. I wouldn't be mad if he plays the Mike, but I want to see him at that Sam linebacker position because I want to see what he has. Because he also, I think it was like the top 3 or like we have 3 of the top 5 linebackers that were graded in the preseason. Weatherford, Gates, and Sanborn. So we already saw Sanborn. Let's see Gates. Let's see Weatherford. See what he can do because Weatherford is probably going to be a special teamer. So why not just see what they can do against an NFL team? Just give them the opportunity, give them the chance. But my next one that I kind of want to see is I would put Joe Thomas out there on first and second down and then put Nicholas Morrow in only on third downs. Because Morrow has shown he can't cover the run. He's a better pass coverage guy than normal. And we've brought this up on many other shows. It's a modern way to run your defense. You have a kind of like a dime linebacker, so to speak, where they are then in that nickel and he is their pass coverage specialist. See what he can do with the full head of steam. See what he can do out there. I want to see what they can do. Why not try it out? Because if he's mad and offended by it, it's the last game of the season. So why not see what he can do at that position and hopefully kind of impresses and you want to re-sign him. But PayPal, thoughts on the linebackers?
Hey, Brad, hey, I'm good. You sold me. You sold me. I mean, I think anything at this point, like we just don't see. I mean, I'm fine with the secondary. They can keep the exact same people that they've been having out there week in and week out. I mean, Jalen Jones, he's not looking amazing, but how can you look good with this terrible defensive line? I mean, so that's the thing with the defensive line. It's like keep Jones out there, and then I don't really care who else is out there for the line, honestly. But yes, with your question with the linebackers, it'll be so much fun to see Gates. I mean, he looked so good in the preseason when he was lined up next to Sanborn. And I like his swagger. I mean, I would watch some of his stuff like when he's in the XFL. And he's fun to watch. I mean,
he's a swaggy team.
Yeah, he's a swaggy team. He's got confidence, and that's just a big thing you need on your defense. It's like as long as you got that swag, it almost like brings this fear in the other team when you're like not rattled and you just have this high confidence. It's like, oh wow, like that guy, even if he is terrible, like he's got confidence, and you know, it kind of emotionally rattles the other team. So
especially corner, like or corner linebacker, like
yeah,
you're crazy. And then they're like, oh man, I don't want to go against that guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he has his, hopefully we'll see his floss. I don't know if you've seen him, like he'll have like a thing of floss in his mouth, like, you know, those little, it's like the single floss ones where it's
like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, the dinosaurs and stuff.
Yeah,
he just plays with one in his mouth.
He does.
At least he did that. Yeah, he played it in an XFL game. He did that.
Oh,
yeah. I think it was only one game, but it'll be cool to see if he did that again. You know, because he had a heck of a game. That was most of his like film that he had.
Was him flossing, just flossing on the sidelines. Like, I don't gotta sign this guy. Dental hygiene.
I don't know. Yeah, dental hygiene. I mean, screw the mouth guard, but
look at the way look at those ways he penetrates those gaps with his flossing technique. Spotless. But yeah, I'm excited about it, but also I just got to call out some of the comments. J-Rock saying Bobby Okereke in free agency. Man, I still remember when we did the free agent podcast and we saw Bobby Okereke and we're like, how didn't we know this earlier? Like,
Yeah.
what? And we had to double check because we had to look and it's like, yes, he would be an amazing linebacker for this. And Renewable brings up Lewis. And it's a perfect segue into this. PayPal, another person I'm watching is Terrell Lewis. Terrell Lewis is
Yeah.
activated. He's going to be on this team right now. I don't see a number for him right now, so maybe he hasn't picked it. But according to PFF, there's no number. But Terrell Lewis on the edge, defensive end, is someone to watch out for. He's playing to just try and stay on a team. He played for 12 weeks with the Rams. They did not like what they saw, and they ended up deciding to cut him loose. I want to see what he can do. I want to see what he can, like, because he's going to be fighting. He's going to be trying to fight for his next team. And it's the definition of just getting a chance and trying to ball out. So that's going to be somebody to look out for where you go, what's that guy? Who is he? Oh, it's Lewis. Okay. Because he's going to be fighting out there and he could potentially get a spot on this team and just be re-signed for an extra year. So
yeah,
yeah,
Brad,
J-Rock says Terrell Lewis listed as a linebacker for the Bears. I think that's one of those, like, the old school, like, I mean, he's a defensive end. I mean, he's an edge player, but he's kind of that, like, 3-4 outside linebacker. So he should be an edge, but we'll see. And maybe he'll play we'll see where he plays, but he should. Maybe they play him as a stand-up linebacker, but we'll just have to see where exactly he gets put for the Chicago Bears.
And yeah, Brett, I mean, with these quarterbacks, do you think, I mean, who's going to be a third guy? I mean, is Gordon going to be on the outside? I mean, with like Blackwell was down, and then, I mean, Vildar's always been down, but with those guys down, I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't know. We haven't seen anything from Breon Borders, so it'd be kind of fun to just see him out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hand is one of those guys, like, he also did pretty decent when he was at preseason.
Yeah, I think also Hand played pretty well last week. I think they're going to probably keep out the same people, and I think Jalen Jones, put him in the slot, keep Kyler Gordon on the outside, and then yeah, you leave Hand on the outside as well. Because Jalen Jones, they seem to just put kind of everywhere. I think ultimately they should go with that. And speaking of the secondary too, I kind of want to see, I know you love your boy DHC. I kind of want to see a little bit more Elijah Hicks. Hicks has had his playing time. He hasn't been great, right? But why not? I kind of want to see him, or even like an AJ Thomas. I really want to see him out there. Also, Terrell Lewis, number 52, just so people know. So look for Khalil Mack out there. Hopefully he plays like him. But yeah, he is listed as a linebacker, which is interesting. I still think he's just going to be a D end. Yeah, it is interesting that they did list him as a linebacker, 6'5", 262. Like he needs his hand in the dirt at 262.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think though Elijah Hicks, why not try and give him a shot? But yeah, so we'll see. I think ultimately this defense, we're gonna get let down. It's not gonna be very pretty. But it's going to be all about the turnovers. So there's also some other points that I want to make, but that can wait for our monster matchups. PayPal, what are your monster matchups for this game?
Man, Brad, I mean, if we're talking about, is Kyler Gordon, I mean, it's crazy just how his transformation from week 1 to, last week in the entire NFL. It seems like he would probably be matched up against Justin Jefferson, and I don't know if it's crazy to think that he could maybe shadow Justin Jefferson. I mean, I don't know if I trust Jalen Jones following him just because the size of just Justin Jefferson being taller and lankier. But Kyler Gordon, I mean, I think he's gonna have to have a huge game against Justin Jefferson, and this is kind of him proving like, yeah, I've learned from my mistakes, and those turnovers I had the past couple weeks were not fluky. That was because
Yeah.
I'm good, and yeah, I'm excited honestly for this matchup because Gordon is one of those guys. I did not like when he was on this team the first couple weeks, and now I'm like, this guy's fun to watch, and I really, I can see him in the future of this team.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm I'm gonna go with the other rookie for my matchup then. I'm going with Jaquan Brisker versus Dalvin Cook
Hmm.
because we know our linebackers are not going to be doing anything out there. And very quietly, and I hate saying this because I love Jaquan Brisker, Brisker hasn't been as good as he was kind of in the middle of the season. And a big reason, everyone's gone. So as a
Yeah.
rookie, you don't have your running mate in Eddie Jackson. So
Yep.
it's difficult because you don't have that chemistry with the DHC. You don't have that chemistry with the rest of the defense out there. So it's got to be difficult. And do I think he's bad? No. I think it's just a product of his environment right now. But I think he needs to step up because we don't have people in that middle, and he needs to do something to then stop the big runs from happening. That's why that is my big matchup for this week. But PayPal, who do you have as your X factor?
Man, I mean, I want to say Gordon again, but I mean, if we're
You
talking
can.
about if we're talking about the run game, I mean that's the thing with Gordon is I do think even though our run defense is not very good, probably one of the worst, like the worst in the league. The Vikings just pass it like they pass it a lot more than running. So I think they're still going to just pass heavy. And I think Gordon, I mean, X factor and matchup. I think
Okay.
Gordon, he's one of those guys. Like it's weird. Like it seems like he's one of the most experienced people in our secondary now. I mean, with Hand being out there, someone very inexperienced, like probably his first full game. Jalen Jones, what his like third game or something. Like he's got to step up and really, I just think he's got to prove like why he's here and why
Okay.
you know he wasn't a bust at the second round. Like it was good value.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like the doubling down. You've done it once this season now, and I've done it once this season now. So
Yeah.
it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. So I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome, Brad.
Thank you.
And that's
So
my second reason why I put, Gordon as my
okay, okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay, good. So let's go. My X factor that I got is I'm going with Justin Jones. I'm going with Justin Jones. For all the reasons that I
Mhm.
said before, he needs to kind of prove himself. He needs to show what he's capable of. And that's why I think he needs to have a big game. I think he's the biggest X factor because if he can disrupt the center and the guard, which he is capable of doing, and it's good to say that, I think he's capable of potentially wrecking this game because he has a bad matchup in a good way. So I
Yeah.
think he can take advantage of that. I think he can do well. That's why he's my X factor. Also, want to just call out uh, comments are agreeing. Brisker needs to step his game up. Renewable makes a good point. Also, Brisker, since post injury, hasn't been as aggressive. Very good point. Um,
True.
so, hey, pal, we've gone through the offense and we have gone through the defense. So that leaves us with everybody's favorite segment, the special teams review. PayPal, do you have anything for this special teams review?
Right. I'm still shocked to see. I mean, we are the second best kick returning team in the entire league.
Go.
I mean, that's based on yards per return. That's not based on touchdowns,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
we're the second in the league. It's 29.5, I believe. Um, Crazy stat, and I think it just proves. I mean, Khalil Herbert was very efficient when he was back there, and not. good old cement shoes, Ebner. Wow,
Yep.
I almost forgot about Ebner.
Yeah, right?
Right there. I forgot about him. But hey, Velus Jones, he's been doing great. I mean, keep doing great things in special teams. He looks confident. I still think be confident more in the offense now, but we got step one done. Now get in the punt return game and stuff like that.
All right. And also too, Velus, we've been bringing him up. Very, very, very good. But they also have the Vikings have a very good kick returner as well with Kene Unwanyu.
Oh
Totally
yeah.
butchered that, but it sounds kind of like that. So he's very good. He's returned one to the house already. He's going to be very good. It's going to be a very big challenge for us to control them. But also, I want to just let out a little fun stat. The Minnesota Vikings allow the second most kick return yards out of any other team at 26.9. Let's go, Velus. I think Velus, let's go for put us in good field position and try that. That's going to be a big X factor for the game. I would definitely say is what can Velus do? Because Velus is showing his value on special teams. I think he's silencing a lot of doubters. Yes, he's it. We've said this on the show all the time. He's not a wide receiver. He's a playmaker. He's got to be used like a Cordero Patterson, and he's showing that he can be that, right? He's Cordero Patterson light. Cordero Patterson there's a reason why he was drafted in the first and why people were saying Velus should go in the fifth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of just he was a different athlete than a Velus Jones. So Velus, we'll see what he's going to be capable of, and we'll see what he can do. But anything else before we get into who has the edge?
Hey, I'm good, Brad.
Okay, so let's go to also, I just saw that it looks like the Bengals game has been officially canceled. The NFL has announced
playing it anymore.
Breaking news on the show. As of 10 minutes ago, NFL announces that the Week 17 Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed and has been canceled. And thank God, because I was in the championship round. I don't know what fantasy is doing, but I was in the championship round for fantasy. I had Jamar Chase, and we just said, let's just split the money 50-50. Because, I was projected to win, and it was only by, 6. I was up by 6, and I had Jamar Chase to play, and the rest of my team went off. So it's I should have won. But, yeah, we just split everything 50-50, which is good.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, what are you going to do about it, right? So I think it was the most fair, and that's actually what we suggested. But let's go to the who has the edge. Enough fantasy football talk for one show. Let's go over. Sorry for the distraction. Who has the edge? I'll start out with the running game. Bears run offense versus the run defense. I'm going to give it to the Bears running attack. I think that they're going to be able to run all over them. That's where I'm hoping that we can get David Montgomery to go off. PayPal, you have the great Nathan Peterman versus this passing defense. Do you think he shocks the world?
Oh yeah, Peterman, guns a-blazing. No. I wouldn't be surprised if Peterman isn't as bad as we think we are as he is. I think he's gonna have a decent game, but again, that's gonna be maybe one passing touchdown and then one interception. He's gonna do backup things, nothing crazy. So even against this bad pass defense, they do have good corners in Peterson and the Duke. So hopefully, honestly, the Duke, hopefully you get an interception. I would actually kind of root for him to do that.
I love it.
But yeah, I think they got the advantage in that one, Brad.
Awesome. And I have the run defense for the Bears, and that's all that you have to say. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings got it all day. Cook, Madison, even though they're not that efficient, they can be efficient against this defense without Sanborn, without Roquan Smith. That's what's going to happen. But PayPal, let's go over to you to round this out. The Kirk Cousins versus our passing defense. Who wins?
Yeah, they win easily. I mean, Kirk Cousins, he's having a good year. He's got the weapons. We have no pass rush, and we also our secondary is banged up, and our linebackers. So advantage them.
All right. So let's go over to our gambling. So PayPal, we said we wanted to take the over-unders, and we were 2-2 because we had the Bears plus 6.5 that did not hit. We had the under for 52.5, which hit, and
Nice,
Justin
Brad.
Fields over rushing yards,
Yes.
which hit. I had Amon-Ra St. Brown over 79.5 yards, which did not hit, which is surprising enough. And Jamal Williams was where we were split. I was like, dude, we got to go under. And you were like, dude, we got to go over. And because I'm the older brother, we went under. And that was a terrible choice because he went like 150. He went like so
like
far.
2 touchdowns too or something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say we're like 2-2-1 because we were split on that last one. We got to be consensus. So last time we do 5. But yeah, so not great for the first one. Like we said, don't take betting advice from us. But use promo code unbearable at betus.com. So over unders, I don't see any player props right now, but I just have the game lines. So the game line right now with Nathan Peterman starting is Bears plus 7.5. PayPal, what say you?
Honestly, after last week, Fred, I don't think we get close to that. So I mean, I think we're gonna lose by more than 7.5. I can see us losing by 10. And just us the lack of us being able to score touchdowns, I think is going to be a big reason. And also that defense. I mean, we're really going to see not having Justin Fields, and honestly, Trevor Siemian is actually a good backup, but then having that extra level of having Peterman out there, we're really going to see it.
Okay, I see you. Yeah, and I think too, yeah, it shouldn't be that close. I'm happy because I took, not to brag or anything, I got it at -1 for the Vikings. Like the Vikings were at -1, and I'm like, okay, I'll take this. It shouldn't be a pick 'em, but they had it basically as a pick 'em. And then yeah, when Peterman came in, yeah, just you already know it. You already know what's going on with that. But this is difficult. Because I have the over under, it's at 43. Because part of me wants to say, oh yeah, this is hard because it's not a crazy number, but if you go over, I could see the Vikings putting up a lot of points, especially Peterman, all jokes aside, does throw a lot of pick sixes. That's why we joke about it. I'm going to go under. I don't like it, but I just don't see this offense scoring points. And the hard part is you have 2 bad defenses. We had that last week with Detroit. I mean, Detroit, it went to like 51 or 52. So I don't like it. This game is just don't bet it. Like that's
it's so hard. I think Vikings games in general are very hard to bet because Vikings are so unpredictable, and like, but whatever you say for under, I concede with that. Yeah,
we'll see what it is. Maybe I should have pulled up quarter 4 just to kind of see what they have for this game. Even if they have analytics on it, would be kind of nuts. Actually, I have it up right now. They have so they actually like both of our pieces. They say that the spread should be plus 10 for the Bears. So PayPal, quarter 4 supports what you're saying. And also over unders, they have it at 40.5. So they like the under. So there we go. So quarter 4 that don't know, they were gracious enough to give me a free subscription to their betting tools. That's what we've been using for all the simulations. That's how I have it. So we've been playing around, messing around with their odds and their different tools that they have. So let's go over to our game predictions. So PayPal, we have to talk about this. This is our last week of predictions. I am tied with the coin flip. I forgot to change the rank to 1-1.
Wow.
But we're 11-5, 11-5. Part of me wanted to cheat just so that the coin flip had to like choose one way or the other, just so that one of us could eventually win. But we're not going to cheat on this show. But also the simulation, I think it was this week or last week, the simulation didn't work, but the simulation chose the Bears. So because of that, the simulation is now in third. And PayPal, you went with your heart, and you are now 6-10. So, PayPal, do you want to start off? You are last place. You're
Yeah.
not coming back. You can just choose whichever one you want.
Yeah, I'm choosing a tie, Brad. I mean, that's gonna what no one chooses.
If they tie and you choose a tie, I'll let you win.
No, but realistically, not going with my heart. I I just couldn't see the Bears really winning this game. The only thing I could see is like it is the last game of the season. You wanna finish. This is like their last game of the season, so it's like, why not play hard? Like, why not? You're gonna be not playing this game for months and months. You're gonna be practicing, but what's really fun is playing the game. So I could see the team actually having a lot of fun and like really giving it their all this week, but that doesn't give them the talent that they need to win this game. Um, and I mean the Vikings. I mean we talked at pre-show. Like I was actually kind of worried. I'm like the Bears could actually kind of win this just because the Vikings had such a bad week last week. They're playing all their starters, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Just so then they can get that number 2 spot locked down. So with all their starters out there, I mean, we kind of forgot to mention that, but
Yeah, we did.
it's like with all their starters and like almost none of our starters on defense and even our quarterback. Yeah, we don't have a chance. So I'm gonna say they get 28 and we get 10. Yeah.
Okay. 28-10. And it's hitting the under, so that's what I like to see. That's also a
I
really
made
good
sure
score.
that was
Yeah.
you know.
That's the thing. Whenever like we do that, it's like, what's the score? Everything against what we said about
Yeah.
the betting lines. Yeah, I agree with you there. And honestly, I really like that score too, because I feel they're going to be scoring touchdowns against us. Yeah, I'm actually going to copy you. I'm going to say 28-10. I think Bayless has a good return, and that's what kind of causes us to score a touchdown. I think it's going to be I think Bayless is going to have a big play, most
Okay.
likely a kick return. That leads to that. But I think just with Peterman, and I think overall with us rushing the football, Borum is not a good run blocker. Reef has now looked old, like you were kind of alluding to. Musty is kind of getting musty again. Like that left side of the line is your best bet. And I think they're going to game plan for that and try and take that away because that right side is going to be weak when you don't have Tevin Jenkins. Borum, weak run blocker. Jatiri Carter, we don't know. Alex Leatherwood is Alex Leatherwood, right? So I think it's going to be a difficult game for this Bears team. Ultimately, it's going to be 28-10. And something too that I've heard is Vikings are going to play their starters, but there are some murmurs that I've heard that they might pull some depending on how the game is going. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden you see Sean Mannion out there, right? Also, Reload saying Musty needs to get cut. We're going to see what happens this year. I think ultimately they end up re-signing him because of he's a restricted free agent. So you get him for dirt cheap, and then you just have a backup, and then you can cut him if he doesn't make the cut, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, keyword backup.
Yeah.
I swear if he starts, I'm gonna be cussing out Ryan Poles. I mean, I liked what he's been doing lately. Like basically the entire season I've been all over him, but if he keeps Musty, that will just rub me the wrong way.
So we'll see what ends up happening also with like Lucas Patrick too. But let's go to the first place coin flip bracket. So heads means Bears, tails means tails then would be a loss for the Bears. So let's go. Let me actually just
This
showcase
is huge, Brad.
myself. Yeah, this is huge. I'm hoping that it's tails, or I'm hoping
Yeah,
that
this
it's
is
heads,
tails.
heads, because
yeah.
let's see. So if it's flipping. Come on.
Oh
Man, like I really want to hit it again. It said tails for those that are listening. It's tails.
now
It's
do you
siding
now
with
are
us.
you now Brad, do you go for the tie or do you go for the win? I
Oh,
mean,
God.
you could say the Bears are gonna win.
I don't know. I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So I'm sticking.
Just like Brad, just like the fantasy league, you took the tie. You got to take a win sometime, you know.
You know what? The World Cup made me in a tying mood, and I'm going with the tie. You know what? Fine, PayPal. Even though I don't believe in it, just so then I'll lose to you know what? Because for the lulls, it's going to be funny if a coin flip beats us. So I'm going to say that the Bears win. Screw it.
Yes.
So, you know what? Bears win. Let's see. It's got to be under it. Let's see. Let's go 17-16. Really low scoring game because it's just a gross game all around. 17-16. Actually, let's go 2017. 2017. There we go. Game winner from Santos.
Good year.
We end up running the football well. Khalil Herbert ends up going crazy on the ground. So there we go. I
love it, Brad.
I'm still not rooting for the Bears to win, but still.
Oh God, if they won, that'd be.
But we'll see. So actually, let's go over to my other screen. We're gonna be sharing the. We got to do the simulation now. So I'm going to just share this tab, and here we go. Let's load this, and then I also have some extra stuff. So everyone, you want to stay tuned. I'm going to see the probabilities that quarter four is giving for the Texans and everybody else out there, just so we can kind of see what the Bears can kind of expect. So here we have the Bears home team, Minnesota Vikings, the away team. Let's simulate this and see what they got to do. Let's see.
I swear, if they have the Bears winning, I mean, I might be kind of scared.
Okay, no, they don't have that. The Bears have a 26% chance of winning, so they gave it a 73.9. They still have Justin Fields, some stats. Nathan Peterman, they have projected at 36 yards. So we'll see what ends up happening. They must have not switched it over, and that's why it's in beta. But let's go over to the forecast because I kind of want to see what they have for the forecasted totals for this week. Load this up. Because just for those that don't know, this should be, we got to hope for this loss because if we lose, we lock in the second pick, just like how they would lock in the second, or they could potentially lock in the second seed. We would get the second pick if we end up losing at a minimum, right? So think about it. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or a huge plethora of picks. So they're giving the Bears an 18% chance overall to win. But if we go down to the Houston Texans, they're giving them a 48% chance of beating the Colts. It's a pick 'em in a lot of things. This is going to be really close. We are all Houston Texans fans, and we are all Vikings fans.
And
imagine if the Bears can get the first pick in the draft. It's like, look at this, 18% chance for the Bears, 48 for the Texans to win. It looks like the Bears should be able to lose, and it looks like the Texans 50-50 shot. Man.
The Packers Lions games in primetime that Sunday too. I think that's a big game to watch, because the Packers, they might be going to the playoffs, which we do not want.
For sure. And I'm looking too, they are giving the Broncos a 49% chance. Chargers must be playing their backups. And then the Cardinals have a 15% chance. So those are the other two teams that have similar records or just have that 4 wins. So if we were to win, then we would have to see what they would do, because if we have the 4th pick, if we win and we get the 4th pick, so that's where it's going to be crazy. So number 1 pick would be crazy. Definitely. I'm hoping for it, because if we can get the number 1 pick, think about it. You hold that pick for ransom. And the more that we learn about the draft this year, it really does seem like Bryce Young is the consensus number 1 guy, number 1 quarterback out there, even though Levis, even though Stroud played well, but they're still nervous about him because he does suffer when it comes down to the pocket presence. it seems like Young is that number one guy. So if the Bears have that number one pick, think about it. Poles just sits out there and he goes, all right, Texans, how much are you giving up to go back to where you once were? Or looks at anybody else, the Colts, right? Looks at the Colts and says, hey, do you want this pick? Now you trade down, you get the 5th pick in the draft, you get a huge plethora of picks, and you get Peter Skoronski, right? The tackle out of Northwestern, not a huge dominant prospect, but somebody who's a very safe prospect that can be a starter. I think about him like a Mike McGlinchey or like a Jonah Williams. Like a better Jonah Williams is a good way to think about him, where coming out, Jonah Williams, very safe prospect, but not like the elite traits that you would want. So that's where it'll be very interesting. I'm excited. And I am shocked that this podcast went an hour 16, especially since we were just talking about this is going to be the shortest podcast.
Yeah, right. Oh, exactly. It's like, oh, we're not going to talk about much, but it's the last game of the season. So there's a lot to talk about with that. So
exactly. So it's about time we wrap this thing up. As I think the reason is because we get talking about the offseason and we just can't stop. We just can't stop. This is the last game of the season. Thank you all so much for subscribing. Thank you all so much for liking. Tell your friends about it. Rate 5 stars. It's a great way to kind of share and spread the word. As always, thank you all so much. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and